The kingdom of Valteros was known for its silver towers, moonlit gardens, and long shadows that moved like living stories. It was a land shaped by old promises and older fears, where rulers carried pride like armor and secrets like unseen chains. And in this kingdom lived Princess Ilara, the girl many whispered about but few truly knew. From the moment she was born under a trembling eclipse, Ilara carried a mark that no one could explain, a faint silver shimmer on her wrist that glowed in moments of deep emotion. Her mother passed away the night Ilara entered the world, and from that moment onward her father, King Roland, seemed unable to look at his daughter without pain in his eyes. The people called her cursed, unusual, unlucky, but the word that followed her everywhere like a shadow was the one her father himself had spoken. She is my shame. Ilara grew up in quiet corners of the palace. She learned to keep her voice soft and her steps gentle. She learned how to disappear from hallways before the king arrived, how to smile politely at court guests who asked if she was unwell, and how to bow her head in acceptance when courtiers spoke of her as if she were made of thin glass. Yet Ilara was not weak. Her heart carried more strength than anyone around her could see. She simply had never been told she was allowed to use it. The moon-tearing festival arrived like a storm. Lanterns filled the city. Music drifted across the palace walls. Dancers in silver cloth spun until they became halos of light. But even with all the celebrations, there was a strange tension in the air, a stirring in the wind, an unusual shimmer in the sky, as if the heavens themselves expected something. Ilara watched the festival from a high balcony. She loved the view, even if she did not feel welcome among the crowd. The sky glowed with streaks of pale blue, and the moon seemed to move differently as if shifting its gaze. Then, without warning, the air trembled. A thin crack of light opened across the sky like a quiet ripple. Ilara gasped softly. The veil, the ancient barrier between the mortal kingdom and the northern supernatural lands, had been still for centuries. But tonight it changed. From the crack came a soft pulse like a heartbeat, and then through the fading shimmer figures appeared, walking with slow and steady grace, cloaks the color of midnight, eyes that carried ancient glow. Their presence was calm yet powerful, and their arrival silenced the festival almost instantly. The vampiric legion had returned. The people of Valteros did not scream or run. They simply froze, unsure how to breathe. No one expected the legion to ever step into their lands again. Their leader walked at the front, tall, quiet, composed. His hair fell like shadow silk, and his eyes held the calmness of a deep, still lake at night. This was Lord Calith Renaris, the alpha of the northern vampires. A being spoken of in old songs, always described with awe and mystery rather than fear. He did not harm. He did not threaten. But his presence had the weight of unspoken power. Ilara felt her heart jump strangely when she saw him. Something inside her wrist tingled, the faint silver mark warming under her skin. The king and his officials hurried to the courtyard below. Ilara, still unseen on her balcony, watched as Calith bowed his head respectfully. His voice carried clearly through the air. "We come to renew the old agreements between your kingdom and ours." His tone was steady, polite, but King Roland's reply was not. "You arrive here without warning," he said sharply. "You expect welcome?" Calith did not respond with anger. He simply continued, "Our lands change. The veil grows thin. We wish peace, your majesty." The king did not believe him. It was clear from the way his jaw tightened. And Ilara knew, by long experience, what her father would do next. When the king felt unsure, he always searched for something or someone to offer in exchange for safety. And today, that someone was her. Before she could even step away from the balcony, guards arrived behind her. "His Majesty requests your presence," they said gently. They always spoke gently to Ilara, not because they respected her, but because they thought she might break if they spoke too loudly. She walked with them into the grand hall where negotiations were taking place. Her father stood tall, wearing a smile too controlled to be sincere. When Calith's eyes lifted and saw Ilara enter the room, his expression changed, almost too subtly to notice. But Ilara saw it, a quiet recognition. A soft shift in his breath, a sudden focused calm. Her mark warmed again. King Roland spoke before she could even greet the guests. "This is my daughter Ilara," he announced. "She carries no special skill, but she is gentle, obedient, and of royal blood. If it will ease the agreement between our kingdoms, I offer her to remain with your people for a season." The room fell silent. Alara lowered her gaze. The familiar ache rose in her chest. She should have expected it, but somehow it still hurt. The way her father offered her as if she were a burden he wished to place elsewhere. But Caliph did not respond as expected. He looked at Alara. Truly looked, not at her timid posture, not at the mark on her wrist, but at something deeper, something she herself had never understood. His voice when he spoke was steady but carried a tone that filled the hall like soft thunder. "She is not a burden," he said. "She is not shame." The entire court froze. Caliph stepped forward with calm confidence. "She is honor, and no offer made in disrespect shall be accepted." Alara lifted her eyes in surprise. For the first time in her life, someone had spoken for her without hesitation or apology. She felt a strange pressure behind her ribs, as if something inside had been carried in silence for years and was now awakening. The king's expression darkened, but he could not argue with the leader of the northern warriors in front of his own court. Instead, the meeting ended early, tense, unsettled. But one arrangement still took place. Caliph requested Alara to travel with his group for only a short time, to learn about the changes happening in the magical lands, not as an offering, not as a sacrifice, but as a bridge between the two kingdoms. Alara agreed, not because she felt worthy, but because she hoped to understand the strange energy growing inside her. The journey north was calm and strangely peaceful. No one treated Alara as fragile. No one avoided her. The Vampiric Legion was soft-spoken, disciplined, and thoughtful. Their steps made no loud sound, as if they respected the earth beneath them. Caliph spoke very little at first. But whenever Alara walked near him, she felt steadier, as if his presence quieted a storm she never knew existed inside her. And whenever he glanced at her wrist, something like curiosity filled his eyes. One night, while the group rested near a quiet forest, Alara wandered toward a ruined stone arch covered in moss. The runes carved on it began to glow faintly as she approached. She reached out her hand, unaware that her mark was shimmering brighter and brighter. A soft wave of light burst from the arch and surrounded her. Suddenly, visions swept through her mind, a tall figure kneeling before her, calling her name with a voice full of devotion, her own hand touching his shoulder. A promise she didn't understand echoing in her heart. "Alara!" Caliph's voice broke the vision. She fell forward, breathless, and he caught her before she hit the ground. His touch was gentle but firm, his expression genuinely worried. "What did you see?" he asked softly. I don't know," she whispered. But it felt real. Caliph looked shaken, more than she expected. "Alara, your mark is awakening. This power, it is older than both our kingdoms." Her heart raced. "What am I?" He looked at her with calm seriousness, the kind that carried truth instead of fear. "You are not cursed," he said quietly. "You are chosen." Before Alara could respond, the earth beneath them gave a sudden tremble. Light flickered in the trees. The mark on her wrist blazed like a small star. Caliph stepped closer, his voice steady but tinged with awe. "Alara, something ancient has awakened in you." Her breath caught. The soft crack in the ground did not open into danger. Instead, it released a gentle breath of silver air that curled around Alara like a whisper. The forest grew quiet, as if listening. Leaves stopped trembling. Even the moonlight paused in place. Alara stood still, unsure whether to step back or forward. The glow from her wrist slowly softened, turning from bright silver to a calm, steady shimmer. A quiet warmth spread through her body. Not painful, not frightening, just strange, like remembering something important after years of forgetting. Caliph watched her carefully. His expression was steady, but his eyes held a depth she had never seen in anyone before. Calm, thoughtful, and full of questions he did not speak aloud. "Are you all right?" he asked. Alara nodded, letting out a soft breath. "I think so. It felt like the ground knew me." Caliph did not laugh or dismiss her words. "Sometimes the old places remember those they were made for," he said gently. "Perhaps this land recognized your mark." Alara looked down at her wrist again. The glow faded completely, leaving only the faint silver pattern she had known all her life. Yet she felt different, as if a door inside her had opened. The group continued their journey north the next morning, reaching the border of the vampiric lands by dusk. The northern sky was wider than she had ever imagined. Clouds moved like waves across a deep blue ocean, and the air held a faint sweetness, like distant snow mixed with early spring. As they walked, Caliph spoke softly to her about the northern lands, their long nights, their peaceful forests, their old libraries filled with stories carved into stone. He was not talkative by nature, but when he described his home, his voice carried a quiet pride. Alara found herself listening with genuine interest. She had grown up in a palace full of marble and rules, but the north felt open and calm, like a place not shaped by fear. When they arrived at the Legion's settlement, a wide valley surrounded by willow trees, Alara felt something she had not felt in years. Safety. No one stared at her. No one whispered. No one treated her like a burden. Instead, members of the Legion greeted her with gentle bows, as if she were a guest of honor rather than a problem to be hidden. Their kindness surprised her so deeply she didn't know how to respond at first. Caliph walked beside her, quietly observing her reactions. "You may stay here as long as you wish," he said. "No one will judge you." Alara stared at the peaceful valley. "It feels unreal," she whispered, "as if the world changed overnight." "It hasn't changed," Caliph replied softly. "You have simply stepped into a place where you are seen." His words settled gently in her heart. Days passed in a rhythm Alara had never known. She learned about the northern customs, the healing gardens, the moonwater lakes, and the rune stones scattered throughout the land. She even made tentative friendships with some of the gentle Legion members who taught her how to read the old symbols. But the most surprising part was how, naturally, her own abilities responded to the North runes glowed when she touched them. Water rippled softly even when she was still. Shadows leaned toward her like curious animals. Caliph watched her progress with calm attention, never pushing, only guiding when she sought his help. He remained composed, but sometimes Alara caught him staring at her with a thoughtful expression, as if trying to understand something beyond logic. One evening, he invited her to walk through the shimmering willow forest that bordered the valley. The leaves glowed faintly under the moonlight, giving the whole place a dreamlike beauty. "Alara," he said finally, "your mark is not a random gift. It carries meaning." She touched her wrist gently. "Then why does it make me feel confused? Why does it respond only around you or this land?" Caliph hesitated for the first time. "Because the mark is older than our kingdoms. It is tied to a very old promise, one made long before you were born." Alara felt a gentle flutter in her chest. "A promise to whom?" "To someone who carried the same strength you carry now," he said quietly. "And to someone who once stood beside me." His voice grew softer, touched with old sadness, but he did not speak more. Alara felt the urge to ask him, but something stopped her. She sensed that his memories were delicate, like unopened letters from a past he rarely touched. Still, she felt a pull between their stories, a connection she could not explain. Everything changed one morning when a soft humming sound filled the valley. Legion members paused and looked around in confusion. The sound grew brighter, like light given a voice. Alara's wrist warmed again. Caliph stepped beside her, eyes narrowed in concentration. "It's calling to you. What is?" He pointed toward the far end of the valley where an old stone tower stood, a structure she had never entered. It had no doors, only a smooth wall with a single silver symbol carved into it. Alara walked toward it slowly. The symbol glowed brighter with every step she took. When she placed her palm on the stone, the tower shifted gently, opening a quiet passageway. Caliph followed her inside. The interior was filled with warm light that seemed to float in the air. Not harsh, not bright, simply alive. In the center of the room lay a circular pool of still water. When Alara approached it, the water stirred and formed a mirror-like surface, and then she saw it. Her own reflection looked back at her, but not as she was now. This reflection wore ancient clothing, soft and flowing. Her hair was longer, her eyes held confidence, and the mark on her wrist glowed far brighter. She reached out a hand, and the reflection reached back. "Alara," Caliph whispered behind her, his voice strangely shaken. The reflection slowly changed, and she saw another figure beside her in the water's image. A familiar tall shape, calm eyes, a presence she knew too well. It was Caliph. Not as he was now, but younger, with softer features and a quiet smile she had never seen on him. Her heart trembled. What is this?" Alara whispered. Caliph stepped closer, staring at the image with disbelief and emotion. "A memory," he said softly. A memory from a life you and I shared long ago. Alara felt her breath leave her body. A life. Before this one. Yes, he said, voice gentle. You once carried this same mark, and I once stood beside you, bound to protect you. We made a promise, one so strong that even time could not erase it. Alara's eyes softened, both overwhelmed and strangely calm. She watched the reflection of her past self place a comforting hand on Kaleth's shoulder. The image then dissolved like mist. Kaleth turned to her. This is why your power responds to me. It recognizes a bond we once shared. Alara's heart fluttered, not with fear, but with something warm and fragile. Then everything, all these strange feelings, they are not accidents. No, he said gently. They are memories that your heart remembers even before your mind does. The tower's light grew softer, wrapping around them both like a warm breeze. Alara looked at him with quiet strength. What happens now? Kaleth took a slow breath as if grounding himself. Now you choose your own path, not the one your father assigned you, not the one the past demands. Your power wakes because you are ready to be who you were always meant to be. Alara felt her heartbeat steady. For the first time in her life, she felt whole. But just as she stepped forward, the soft light in the tower suddenly flickered. A faint tremor ran through the floor. The water rippled with a warning glow. Kaleth's expression sharpened. Alara, something approaches. The tower grew dim. The shadows on the wall lengthened. The mark on her wrist pulsed rapidly. A gentle but powerful voice echoed through the room, neither threatening nor comforting. Simply, ancient, awakened one. Your time has begun. Alara swallowed softly. What does that mean? Kaleth looked at her, calm but deeply serious. It means the world has felt your awakening, and something old is coming to find you. Alara lifted her chin, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Then let it come. Her mark glowed bright, filling the tower with silver light.